Okay, it's Dr. J here from the Cognitive Behavior Institute. Today I'd like to discuss briefly OpenFit and then provide some demonstrations of how we're going to be using it here at CBI. OpenFit is something I'm really excited about rolling out with you all. A lot of literature that suggests it really helps to make the treatment a little more dynamic. The basic idea here is collecting more feedback and input from clients strategically throughout therapy by the implementation of two scales. There's at the beginning of each session, we would implement something that's called the outcome rating scale, and that's going to measure different areas of well-being for clients, their individual well-being, interpersonal well-being. It tends to be the most significant relationships in the client's life inside the home. Socially, so how they're doing with relationships outside the home, at work, or school for kids, and then overall well-being. And so what we know from the literature is that these areas of well-being are really valid indicators of client progress. And so each session, we want to get a pulse right at the start of that session is how have they been doing since last time and how is the therapy trending? At the conclusion of each session, that third portion of the session, we want to dedicate 5 to 10 minutes, I'd say, having the client complete the session rating scale. The idea behind the session rating scale is this becomes a measure of the therapeutic alliance. How strong is it? How potentially weak is it? What are the ways in which we might be able to modulate the therapy alliance to help our clients reach their goals more effectively? So I indicated in a prior email that a study of about 6,000 subjects, clients who use these scales in each session, the effectiveness of therapy doubled. And we know that clients who are unwilling to use the scales, that the dropout rate increased significantly. And so we know that with OpenFit, we're positioned well to already capitalize on what we do well, which is provide high quality care with CBT. You know, one of the things that I think is going to be useful for us as well is the compatibility between OpenFit and the cognitive behavior therapy model. One of the neat things about OpenFit is it is trans-theoretical, or I might say pan-theoretical, which is to say it really can be attached to different orientations to therapy and change. Some of the reasons why I think it's most useful with a model like CBT is because it invites the clinician to more intentionally and deliberately structure each session, and it formalizes the solicitation of client feedback and input into each session. So we know that we can really calibrate the kind of therapy that we're providing to what each client is looking for. So those are the general ideas. As you know, as of April 1, we're going to be rolling this out with all new clients or clients who've been in treatment no more than a month. And if we kind of back up and look at this organizationally or even institutionally, this is also going to allow us to be collecting data on our outcomes and be able to celebrate our work and potentially write grants and conduct research that shows the effectiveness of integrating OpenFit into CBT treatment, but also into the Gottman method. And I'd just say finally, too, one of the pieces that I think is really useful here is the way in which the OpenFit platform aggregates data for each clinician across their client caseload. And so you'll get what I've been calling your own batting average, so to speak, as a clinician, how you're doing with building rapport with clients, engaging clients in the therapeutic process in that first session. And you're also going to have a tool in your hands because there are helpful graphs that you can share with clients that can show how they're trending, if things are getting better, if it's deteriorating, or staying the same. We really believe that this can be used as a potent therapy tool that each clinician can add to their therapy pouch. So thank you. And what we'll move to now is more of a demonstration of how to introduce the tools in an initial session with a new client. One of the things that we wanted to do here today was I want to show you how I've been introducing OpenFit to my clients. So I want you to imagine I've already provided Nicole, as you all know, Nicole, with we've talked about confidentiality, and we're in the middle of an informed consent conversation, which is where I introduce both scales and how I tend to integrate them into treatment. So, one of the things, Nicole, that I do, it's maybe a little bit different from the way other folks work, and it's actually different too from maybe like a primary care physician that you would see is, a lot of times the way that they would structure treatment is that they would assign a diagnosis and give you a prognosis and say, here's what you need to do. I don't do treatment that way. In fact, I don't want to do treatment to you or for you. I really want to do it with you. And so one of the things that's really important to me is that right from the get-go, we're able to build a culture of feedback. One of the things that we know from the literature is that when clients feel really good about the therapy alliance, they tend to experience more changes. And so it's something I want us to monitor, actually, in each session. The other thing, too, is I want us to both together have this shared sense of, is what we're doing, is it actually helpful? Are you actually experiencing the changes that you wanted to pay attention to? One of the things that we do know from the literature is that if clients don't experience some positive changes, particularly within the first 6 sessions, they tend not to experience any change in treatment at all. And so I want us to monitor that each session so that if you're feeling like things are not getting any better or maybe worse, things are deteriorating, I want us to have some very frank discussions about what might we be doing differently in here that'll give you more bang for your buck. There's actually been a lot of literature on clients who have used these 2 scales that I want to introduce to you now. There's the outcome rating scale, which is going to be our method of assessing, are you really getting the help that you need? Are you feel like you're getting better? And then also the session rating scale, which is measuring, how satisfied are you with my approach? Did you really feel listened to today? Did you feel like something was missing from the session today? Or was it really spot on? That when clients are able to give that kind of feedback in each session, the effectiveness in treatment, it more than doubles. And so my goal is going to be to really set you up for the most amount of change that you can experience. And part of what I'm going to need to do that well is your input around what feels like help, what's most useful to you, the kinds of things that we discuss, our style of talking about them. So I want you to be thinking about like any feedback that you could give me, positive, but especially negative feedback. It's really helpful to our work together. So I encourage you to take risks with me around what you find to be helpful and what maybe we could be doing that would make it more useful. Any questions about that?
So how often are we doing this?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. The way I tend to do it with my clients would be the start of each session, you would complete the outcome rating scale. And if you're helpful, can I show it to you and show you what that is? It'll take less than a minute, but that'll give us a baseline from each session, how you've been feeling since last time, and if things are getting better or worse. Can I show it to you?
Sure.
Just use it on this iPad here. And so you hit the survey. So this is the scale. Here's how it works. It'll prompt you and it'll say, looking back over last week, including today, help us understand how you've been feeling by rating how well you've been doing in the following areas of your life. So marks to the left are as bad as you can be doing. You've been feeling really poorly. Marks all the way to the right are as good as you can be doing. And it's in the following 4 areas. So the first would be individually. How do you feel like you've been doing personally since last time? Since this is our first session, how have you been doing the past week individually? And so what you do, you just put your finger on the line. Real positive, high scores are here, and low scores are here. Interpersonally, these would be your most significant intimate relationships, usually with children or intimate partners. Oftentimes, these are the folks who are maybe living in the home with you. I want you to rate your level of satisfaction in those relationships here. And then socially, this would be some of those relationships outside the home, maybe your peer group, your work setting, or your faith community. You would represent that here. And then overall, and this is significant too because, maybe socially things are going really well. And even individually things are going well, but you feel like the marriage is not going well. And that's really what's important to you is the marriage. And so you might weight that differently than you would socially or individually. So what I want you to do for the overall is say, overall, as I think about my life across the different areas, how would I average out how well I've been doing? And so you'd hit enter the score, and then each week we'll look at your graph to see how things are trending, just as one metric, one way of determining whether or not this is being useful to you or not.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Would you be up for giving that a whirl?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Would you like to see the session rating? So I can even show that to you now. I won't have you complete that until the end, but can I show it to you?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So let's skip this. Okay, survey, session rating scale. And this works a similar kind of way. Scores to the right indicate high levels of satisfaction. Scores to the left would be lower. Please rate today's session by placing a mark on the line nearest to the description that fits your experience. As I said before, my goal here is not to get all 10s necessarily. My goal is to really be able to gauge, are you getting what you need out of our work together? Is our working alliance intact? So the first one is really about that. It's about our therapeutic relationship. Did you feel heard, understood, and respected or not? And to what degree? And so you would mark that here. This one, the second one, is more about the goals and the topics. We really talk about the things you wanted to talk about today. Or just like I was pushing my agenda a little bit. Maybe I could do that sometimes. And so I'll be looking for feedback around, we really hitting the items that are most important to you. Third is my approach or my method. My sense of this, and my sense from working with clients, is everybody's looking for something a little bit different. My goal in the first part of our work together is going to be to try and gauge what kind of style is most useful for you and to respond accordingly. So when you give me feedback here, it'll generate some conversations about what would be helpful. And then finally, overall, as you reflect on the session, was it really right for you today? Or did it feel like something was missing? So at the end of each session, I'll ask you to complete this. We'll have a brief conversation so that, if we're missing the target just by a bit or maybe even by a lot, it'll help us to get more where we need to be.
Okay.
Okay? You game for at least trying it out? Any other questions that you have about this?
I don't think so. Yeah,
No.
I'm willing to try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did notice that as you completed the outcome rating scale, individually it was really low. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What's been happening in your life?
Well, I've been really struggling in my marriage recently. And my husband seems to be going back and forth and kind of throwing out this idea of getting a divorce, and
right?
Keeps going back and forth the day after day of, sometimes he wants it, other times he says no and talks about a future together. And, really at first it was a shock, but I felt like I was dealing with it okay, but it's just been, a couple weeks of dealing with this now, and I just feel like I'm having less energy. I feel like my emotions are all over the place. I'm just feeling not as motivated in different areas, and I just feel like I'm just not myself in, any area of my life right now.
It's just beginning to really take its toll on you. But I want the marriage to work. I don't want it to work. Hard to know what to do with that.
Right. Sure.
So that's the demonstration of how to introduce it. I think we'll pause there. So we're coming to the end of our session, and I just kind of say back to you some of the things that I've heard so far, see if I'm tracking you right. That things have been really tough in the marriage, and it's really starting to have an impact on your personal well-being. You have a hard time getting out of bed, and sometimes having some panic attacks at work, and sometimes you're in the middle of a task on the job, and you just find yourself thinking about it again, and it gets hard to concentrate. A part of you really wants the marriage to work. I mean, you've got kids involved in this, and yet you're not sure if he's in or out, and that's taking its toll on you. Basically, the areas where you really want to spend some time working on and counseling, get some support around. Okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping to really find some ways to still be able to be me in these other environments of my life. That this is, I know this is a major area of my life, but, I'm fearful of my other relationships and my work suffering as a result.
Yeah.
Of kind of what I'm going through.
Yeah, it seems to me that you're certain that it may make sense that you struggle for a little bit figuring out the marriage, and yet what you'd like to do is find a way to contain that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not spilling over into all these other areas of your life, and it feels like it's been spilling over and getting
Yeah.
messy of late.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's rippling over into every area of my life right now.
Yeah. And that's where you're hoping maybe this counseling would come into play and be helpful, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are coming to the end of our time for today. If you recall, there's that second scale that I'd like you to fill out. It's a session rating scale. And this is really your chance to give me any feedback on our work together today, if we're off to a good start or not. And again, any constructive feedback that you can provide is really useful. And I'd appreciate that. It'll help me to know how best to help you. So let me show it to you. And I showed it to you earlier, but if you have any questions about what each of these areas really asking for, don't hesitate to ask me.
Okay, sure.
Okay, take a moment and just look at this. Okay. I really appreciate you filling this out. Really hopefully we just begin to gauge how things are going here. Mm-hmm. So let me look here. Okay. So it seems like from what I'm reading here, in terms of how understood you felt, it's pretty high. It's like a 9. And also the goals on the topics was really high too. I'm noticing the approach is a little bit lower. It's a 6, and I'm really grateful that you gave me that feedback. And I'm wondering about, even just for next time, what we might do differently, or the approach I think that might be even more beneficial for you. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts?
Well, I rated the relationship higher because I felt very understood coming in today, and I feel like you were able to capture how I'm feeling and what's going on in my life. But I just feel like I'm really struggling right now, that it's good for me to have somebody to talk about it with, and have somebody to listen and just kind of be an ear for me. But at this point, I feel like I need some things to, help relieve some of this, like, depression that I'm feeling, this sadness, this lack of energy, and I really want to change some of those things. So I really want some, hands-on things that I can do to help improve some of these areas of my life.
I really appreciate the feedback, Nicole. It's incredibly helpful to hear that. In fact, I felt pretty good to talk and let your hair down, and you did feel heard and understood today. I'm glad to hear that. That was my goal. But there's this other part of you who I feel like I'm floundering, and I just need some strategies and some tools to help with the containment. And that sounds like you're really looking for that. Maybe we spent more time doing that next session, even just focusing on coping skills at work, or with your family of origin, or even sometimes just getting out of bed. That would really be useful for you. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll even note that in the chart. Next time we come in, I'll make sure we set aside some time to do that, so you can actually practice some of these skills in between sessions. Does that sound useful?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you next time.
All right.
Okay.